Claudia has entered the room. Two, three. No, so far I haven't let anybody in that's not somebody I recognize. We don't have a defense lawyer yet. B. Simmons. Put more stuff in. Q.
It's a witness.
Okay. Hold off on that one.
Fabiano Ramirez is the defendant. I don't know what his working is at.
As Fabiano Ramirez.
Okay.
Just waiting for a lawyer. John. But you all just have one witness?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. So I think everybody's here then. All right. All right, I think this is 00384096220 and 00384322320. State Texas versus Larissa Miranda Fabiano Ramirez. And I think we're here on a defense motion to suppress. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And
That's correct, Your Honor.
I have watched the videos. The statement, make an opening statement or call your first witness.
Okay.
We waive. I'm sorry, Judge. We waive opening statement.
Okay.
We'll call Officer Blake Simmons.
All right, let me bring him in.
Is anyone else getting feedback or is that just me? Audio feedback?
There is some feedback.
Would it help if everyone except the testifying parties muted, perhaps? I don't know. I just wanted to put it out there.
Can
I
you
didn't-
guys hear me?
Yeah, you don't have to say anything. You can mute yourself if you want to. All right. I've sent his video's not on and he's muted. There, his video's on. Now he's unmuted. Now he's muted again. There we go.
Y'all hear me?
Yes. If you would raise your right hand to be sworn. You swear or affirm, not you, Mr. Simmons, you swear or affirm testimony about to give be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but truth, so be God.
I do.
You can go ahead.
Good morning, officer. Could you spell your name for the record, please?
Sure. Blake Simmons, Blake, and then Simmons.
Are you a certified peace officer in the state of Texas?
Yes.
Who are you employed with?
Frisco Police Department.
Did you have that position on July 25th, 2019?
Yes.
Were you on patrol duty that day?
Yes.
Were you dispatched? Were you Can you tell us that night if you made any arrests?
Yes, there was one arrest.
Can you describe from the beginning just what led to that arrest? Was there a call?
Yes,
911.
we were dispatched to a suspicious vehicle. There's a vehicle parked out front of a reporting party's house that she had never seen before. Once we got there, the vehicle was unoccupied.
The officer testifying in the narrative.
Just ask another question.
So once you arrived there, what happened next?
Detected an odor of marijuana emitting from the creek area, which was about 20, 25 feet from the car.
And did you go down there?
Yes, I walked down there.
What happened then?
Once I walked down there, I met two subjects, a female and a male, who told me that they had just done smoking marijuana.
Do you recognize the female in this proceeding today?
Yes.
Can you identify her by an item of clothing she's wearing?
Black shirt.
Is she, can you describe something in the background? You have a couple black shirts today.
It's going to be just granite, looks like granite countertops. And
That's good enough. Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant.
The record should reflect that.
Okay, so what happened next, officer?
They informed me that there was they had just got done smoking marijuana. I asked them if they had any more. They said no. Asked the female here today if the vehicle was hers. She stated yes. So we walked back up to the vehicle. And
Objection, testifying in the narrative.
Sustain. Quit asking the question.
What happened then, officer?
I walked up to the vehicle and observed in plain view a mason jar full of marijuana.
Okay, so you, let's back up a little bit. So did you get there, did you get the defendant's identifying information at any point?
So neither of them had a driver's license or ID on them, so I took their names and date of birth.
And what name and date of birth did the defendant give you?
She gave me Favino as her first name, and then her last name was, hold on, I gotta look at the narrative real quick.
And officer, just to let you know, you can't read off of it, but you are welcome to refresh your memory if you need to.
She gave me just a last name of, sorry, hold on. It was Favino, and then a first name of Larissa.
Okay. Did she give you a date of birth?
And then the date of birth was 8/6/98.
Okay, and whenever you put that into, did you put that information into your system?
I requested it through dispatch the first time.
Okay, did anything come back?
Came back as a negative result, so we didn't get a return on it.
Okay. Did you follow up with her about a name or any identifying information coming back?
Yes, so I ended up asking her a second time, and she gave me that exact same first, last name, and date of birth, which obviously didn't return the second time.
Now, are you sure that that's how she spelled it to you with a V?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
positive.
So you went up with them to the car, and I apologize, I forget. Have you told us yet whether she said whether the car was hers or not?
Yes, she did state that the vehicle was hers.
Okay. And did you ask her anything about any more marijuana other than what they had already smoked?
Yes, I asked both of them if there was any marijuana on their person or in the vehicle, and they both stated no. They did give me consent to search their person, which didn't reveal any marijuana or contraband.
Okay. And then you said that you saw marijuana in her car. Is that right?
Correct.
Had you gotten into the car yet, or was this from outside the car that you saw?
At that point, I could see it. I believe it was from the passenger side.
Okay. What was can you describe what you saw?
Yes, it was just a mason jar, typical mason jar, clear, and the marijuana which was inside.
Okay. And what did you do then?
Requested the keys from her. Complete a probable cause search of the car, and she refused. So I explained to her that it was in plain view and it was probable cause to search the car.
Okay. At any point, did you ask her about the weed that you saw? Like, comment at all to her about you seeing it?
Yes, I obviously pointed out to her. She didn't say anything at first, but she did claim the marijuana.
She claimed it. Can you elaborate on that?
She did state it was hers.
And was this before you got into the car or after?
I don't recall.
Okay. Would it help if you checked your offense report to refresh your memory on that, on whether it was before or after you got to the car?
Oh, sorry, it's hard to read. It's really small.
Officer, that's okay. We can move on if you can't find it. Were you, did you have a body cam on that night?
Yes, I did.
Was it recording all this? Your Honor, I'd like to admit State's Exhibit 1, which was delivered to the court yesterday.
Any objection? Is that a no? You're muted.
No objection.
All right. Exhibit 1's admitted, and for the record, I have watched it already.
Okay, Judge, thank you. No further questions.
Any questions of this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed, sir?
Yes.
Officer Simmons, good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
How long you been with Frisco PD?
For about 5 years.
Prior to that, what did you do?
Sales.
Okay. So it's my understanding you were working on July 25th, 2019. Is that correct?
Correct.
What shift were you working?
It was a night shift.
Okay. And you received a suspicious vehicle call. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, in your police report, you do not identify who that call came from, but I'm assuming that it came from someone that lived in that neighborhood, correct?
Correct.
All right. And this is a residential neighborhood?
Correct.
All right. And this is a residential neighborhood that has curbing on both sides of the travel.
Yes.
And this curbing is for people to be able to park on the side of the road, correct? Did you hear my last question, sir?
Correct. Yes. Correct.
People
Sorry, I don't
can
think we
park
went
there.
through.
People can park on the side of the road, correct?
Correct.
There is not a sign that says no parking, is there, sir?
No.
And so you were called to a suspicious vehicle that was parked in front of a house on the other side of the road, correct?
Correct.
You were called to check out a suspicious vehicle that was legally parked, legally in this location, correct?
Yes.
So that in and of itself is not suspicious, is it, sir?
No.
You arrive on scene, correct?
Yes.
Do you talk to the individual that made the call?
Yes. The individual actually called him by phone before I got there.
So you didn't place that in your report, did you, sir?
No, I didn't.
And did the individual on the phone tell you where these people were?
No.
I want you to take a few minutes and look at your report and tell this court everything else that you didn't put in your report.
Just the only part that I missed was that I called her before I arrived at the location,
Okay.
the reporting party.
And did you explain to her that it was nothing illegal about someone parking their car?
No, I didn't.
Did you explain to her that that's perfectly in compliance with the law?
No, I didn't.
And did she tell you where these individuals were?
No, she didn't.
Okay. There is, and it's hard to do this via Zoom, but in describing this area, there is to the side of the road where the car was, there is like an open area with the
Your Honor,
creek.
I have to object. Defense counsel is testifying.
Overruled.
There is an open area with the creek away from the car, correct?
Yes.
And there's nothing in that area that says no trespassing, correct?
Correct.
And so anybody can go down there, just like anybody can park their car there where they were. Anybody can go down there to the creek, and that's legal, correct?
Yes.
So you arrive. When you arrive, do you call in the tag number on the car?
Yes.
And when you called in that tag number, did you get your return?
Yes.
And that was before you went down to the creek, correct?
Yes.
And did you know who the car returned to?
No, not at that time.
Did you get a return on the car before you went down to the creek?
Yes.
Okay. And who did the
So that
car
was done
return
over
to?
the radio.
I'm sorry, sir.
That was done over the radio, and I didn't get a return via radio. What we do is we'll log the plate, so we'll give dispatch the plate number, and then they just log it into our system. They don't give it back to it. They don't give us the return back.
When you arrived, did you go and check out the car?
Yes.
Okay. Was there anything suspicious about the car when you checked it out?
Not that I remember, no.
Because if there had, you would have placed something in there.
No.
And there was no traffic violations or traffic ordinance violated.
No.
You go down to the creek and you describe the creek about 20 to 25 feet from the car.
It's an estimate, but yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay. I don't know. I wasn't out there. That's what you said earlier.
Yes.
And this was at 9:42 in the evening.
Yes.
And it appears based on your body cam, this is not a very well lit area.
The older body cams are not that great in terms of video quality, but it was more lit than it shows.
Okay. So when you were standing at the car, you couldn't see them down by the creek, correct?
Correct.
So you indicated you smelled the odor of marijuana, correct?
Yes.
And so you walked down there and you confronted a Mr. Holman and my client, correct?
Correct.
And you told them you smelled the odor of marijuana, correct?
Yes.
And they said, sure did. We just finished, right?
Yes.
And so at that point in time, you asked them for consent to search their person down there by the creek, correct?
Yes.
And when you searched them, you didn't find any contraband at that time, correct?
No. Correct.
And then you asked for identification.
Yes.
And this was all done down by the creek.
Correct.
And Mr. Holman gave you his name and date of birth, correct?
Yes.
And my client gave you Larissa and Fabiano, correct?
Fabiano is what I got.
Okay. Now, and she gave you her date of birth.
Correct.
Now, the only thing that is different between what you're saying she said and what she claims she said is instead of you're putting a V instead of a B, correct?
Yes.
And you could have misheard that, correct?
No, sir. I asked her 3 times, and that's the name that I got.
And her name is Larissa Mirando Fabiano Ramirez.
Correct.
Okay.
F-A-V.
And she even told you it later on that she had a paper copy of her driver's license in the car, correct? In her purse.
This was after she was in the car arrested. Yes.
Okay. Did you ever check that paper copy?
Yes, I did.
And what she said was confirmation, was it not?
It did reveal the actual name of F-A-B, not V. And then she also has 2 last names, which would not have returned.
And
through
she
us.
gave you the correct date of birth, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, at the point in time after you search them and you ask for their identification, at that point, we know that there is no criminal offense that has occurred or is occurring now, correct?
Correct.
Were they free to go?
They could have if they wanted to at that point.
You didn't tell them they were free to go.
Correct.
And you're the one with the badge and the authority out there that night.
Right.
And matter of fact, you say, no, let's walk up to your car. Correct?
Yes.
And so we can agree up to this point, up to the car, that prior to your arrival, no criminal offense had occurred or was occurring, right?
Correct. Yes. It was a consensual contact.
Okay. And that consensual contact you lost when you didn't allow them to leave freely, correct?
I did. It wasn't about me allowing them to leave freely.
Do
It
you
was
think that they felt that they could leave?
I would think so. I mean, it happens every once in a while. People will just walk away, and
Okay. Well, you didn't tell them, you directed them where to walk.
I requested, and they
And
they
you
walked up with me.
and you are the law enforcement officer, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So you get to the car, and the first thing you do is you don't gather any more information. You go right to the car, correct?
Yes.
And you shine your light in the car and you say, oh, you didn't tell me about this. You got a mason jar in here. Right?
Yes, with marijuana.
Okay. Let's stop and talk about that for a second. You didn't say you smelled marijuana, did you?
No, I didn't.
You said you saw what appeared to be marijuana.
No, it was 100% marijuana.
What you saw, what appeared to be. It could have been hemp. You didn't know at that time. At the time you looked in the car, you couldn't say that it was marijuana, could you?
They told me that they had just got done smoking marijuana.
But you didn't know if it was marijuana based on just looking in the car.
Sure.
Correct?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. And at that point in time, you asked for consent and she said no. Correct?
I think that was prior to observing jar.
Well, the
requested
video is going to
consent to search
reflect
the
what the video reflects. Can we agree on that?
Sure. I agree on that.
But if they were free to go, why didn't you let them in their car?
At that point, they were detained based on plain view.
Okay. But you said that they were free to go before you got to the car.
Yes, but once I observed plain view marijuana, then at that point they were detained.
Did you take any photos?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So we're not able to look today to determine what you observed in the car, can we?
Unless it's on body camera, that's the only point of view you have.
Is your testimony,
Yes.
correct? Okay. Thank you very much, sir. I'll pass the witness.
Nothing further, Judge.
Call your next witness. Was this witness released first?
Yes, Judge.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're free to go. Thank you very much.
In the state rests.
All right. Does the defense have any witnesses?
Defense rests and close.
Okay. And the state closes.
Yes, Judge.
Any argument?
State will reserve its argument.
Any argument from defense?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed, sir?
Yes.
We tracked down the facts as based by the officer in this case. It was a suspicious vehicle call. And then what we have learned from the officer is that there was not anything suspicious about a vehicle being legally parked in a residential area. First and foremost, when he does make contact, whether consensual, it starts out, he advises them why he's down there. They indicate to him, and very honest, that they had previously smoked marijuana, but he did not discover anything illegal but continued with a detention for, according to him, there was no criminal offense that had occurred because it had occurred anything that had occurred was in the past and there was nothing occurring and they had no illegal substances on them. At that point in time, he collected their information. They were not free to go. They were detained because he directed them up to the car and told them where to go. We'd respectfully ask this honorable court to suppress this. The officer did not have reasonable suspicion to make any further contact or probable cause to continue the unlawful detention of Ms. Fabiano and Mr. Howard. But in this case, we're only directed about Ms. Fabiano. Additionally, as it relates to the fail to identify, I believe the video accurately reflects that she gave the last name of Fabiano and not Fabiano. But that is for another date and time. I think that is a fact issue, not a legal issue. But if the court believes that the officer didn't have reasonable suspicion and probable cause to continue this unlawful detention, that I believe that case as well would be suppressed along with the marijuana case. Thank you.
The argument from the state.
Yes, Judge. As far as the failure to ID case goes, defense counsel is correct that there's nothing really to suppress here. This might come up later in trial, but the suppression issue is specific to the marijuana that was found and that the defendant confessed to possessing. As far as possession of marijuanas go, this seems more of a textbook case. He had reasonable suspicion to go down by the creek because he could smell marijuana. They admitted to smoking. Then they went up to the car voluntarily. There is no indication that they were detained. They were not put in handcuffs. It was, as the video shows, it was a polite encounter. No one was trying to go or asking if they could go. The officer was on it telling them that they could not leave. But ultimately, Judge, that's irrelevant to the suppression issue because he saw the marijuana in plain view. He did not need their permission to look into the car. Whether or not they were detained is not relevant to what he's able to see just from outside the car. This could have happened in a parking lot. This could happen anywhere. If he's able to see it from outside the car, that establishes probable cause itself. Then the cherry on top, of course, is the defendant confessing to it before she's under arrest. Your Honor, the defendant's motion to suppress should be denied.
Yeah, I think it's a consensual encounter, and not, obviously no person would walk off from a consensual encounter, but maybe they should have. I don't know what would have happened if they had, but he could have walked up there after he left them down by the creek, and he could have looked in the car and seen the marijuana and done the same thing he did. I mean, he had the right to search the car once he sees the marijuana. He has the right to enter the car, and she fessed up that it was hers, so the motion to suppress is going to be denied. Did y'all want to set this for a trial date?
Your Honor, can we go ahead and set a status date?
We'll do that. What date do you want, Mindy? Mindy's finding a date for y'all.
I would say probably June 9th and 11th. Maybe that was short.
June 9th, 10th, or 11th.
Your Honor, could we ask Mindy if she'd like to put it on that February docket that yesterday she gave me a date for, February 26th? I think that we can decide this case by then, Your Honor.
Yeah, why don't we do this? Why don't we set it in June, and then if y'all decide you want to plea it, just set up a Zoom plea or something before then, because you can plea at any time. We just can't have you come in person and plea it right now.
Yes, Your Honor.
That works.
June
9th, 10th, or 11th.
Let's do June 11th.
Okay. That's a Friday, right? It's Friday. Okay.
Thank you
Thank you
very
all.
much.
See you later.
Thank
Ms.
you, Judge.
Ramirez, if you'll give me a call. If you'll
Thanks,
call
Judge.
me. Thank you.
All right, see y'all. Moral of the story, we're still being recorded.